What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the part 3 of our series here on PokerVIP. My name is Spraggy. We are playing once again heads up to get this table started against the man himself, Jon, who, if you haven't checked out his part of the series yet, he's doing parts 1 and 2. Obviously, he's done parts 1 and 2, where we're playing against each other here on TonyBet, amongst other people if they join. But for the meantime, we will be heads up. The previous 2 videos, we established a little bit of a dynamic. There was some fun overbet spots, some thin value bets, some unorthodox bluffs. Let's see how the action goes down today. We're starting off here. We're going to carry on opening pretty liberally in position. Not 9-2 off liberally, though, I don't think. Queen 5 on this board. We got very few backdoors. It's going to be probably still a c-bet, though. We're still c-betting against Jon fairly wide for half pot here. He says, good luck in the chat. In this one, he says, idiot, good luck. And good luck to you too, mate. He'll need it, hopefully. Usually we end up playing heads up for around 5 minutes before the table starts filling up, so be good to play some short-handed games here, get the action flowing. 9-10 suited, definitely going to defend to the 3-bet. Not really the board that we are looking for without any hearts or anything. I think Jon sort of got into a rhythm of he tends to check a lot of strong hands to me because he expects me to be bluffing pretty hard in certain situations. He probably doesn't expect me to give up too much, so I'm kind of a little bit wary about bluffing in this spot. But with our 10 blocker, it's somewhat reasonable. I would expect him to bet the turn with most of his 2-pair hands now. King Jack probably c-bets, but what do we rep for value now? Like King Queen, maybe a Jack 10 that check behind. Over here on table 1, we're just going to go for the 3 streets with the Jack. I think he can still have ace highs on the turn that we can get a fold from. But he has a strong 10, is pretty reasonable call down. I'm actually just going to give up here. Don't think we're getting too many folds from him by the river. He ends up with the Queen 8 for the 2-pair. Jon getting the best of us here in the early going. I don't have auto top up on again, do I? Here we go. Auto rebuy. We are joined on the left-hand table by KT644. Good luck, good luck. If you want to get involved in these games, head over to the PokerVIP forum, and there is a thread up there which has a running commentary of how these tables have been going, and I think Jon's been posting in there when we're about to go live, or putting times up when we're going to go live. So you can get involved in the next video here on the PokerVIP cash game tables on Unibet. TonyBet. We have been 4-bet. Early doors. I think we're going to call here with ace 10. Again, Jon and I have a very aggressive dynamic. I think this is a pretty reasonable defend. I don't think we would want to shove, but I'm okay with a call. And we see a very dry king high board. We do have the backdoor heart. I think we're probably gonna float one here with the ace of hearts. He's still gonna be, I would imagine, betting a lot of the 4-bet bluffs that he has in his range, which can be as wide as something like ace 5 of clubs, I would imagine. Do we have any fold equity here? I think possibly we do have some fold equity against Jon. Even in a 4-bet pot, very, very shallow stacked. I'm just going to rip it in. We have the ace of hearts. It stands. And he has 2-4 of hearts. Now, I did warn you, team. We are running it twice. We need a red card. All right, we get our chop. I did warn you that he can have some pretty wide 4-bet bluffs and some pretty wide c-bets. I mean, obviously, when he flops a flush draw, it's kind of standard fare. But I still think he can be wider and have, like, I don't know, 5-6 would have been like a double gut shot or something. I don't think we can fold the equity at that point, given the aggressive dynamic Jon and I have. And I definitely can get behind our call pre-flop once he shows up with a 4 high there. What's the action been here? I feel like we've defended a min open, have we? Feel like we've defended a min open. We did. Thanks to the good software here on Unibet, we can see that we defended our min open. I think this is a board our opponent will see bet quite regularly. We have reasonable backdoors with the straight draw, or we can turn a straight draw rather, and clubs. I think raising here is going to be okay. Just applying a little bit of pressure. And speaking of applying pressure, team, we have the ace-ace. And again, a really good spot to pick them up, given the aggressive dynamic that Jon and I have. We can anticipate, as we just saw, some 4-bet bluffs. We do get a 4-bet out of KT. I know nothing about this player. I don't know if this is a PokerVIP member or someone who stumbled across the table here on TonyBet, but it's a pretty exciting situation to be in. I think what we want to do, or what we're going to want to do, is just call and disguise our hand a little bit. Really decent flop. So we're going to start with a check. It sucks a little bit if they've got something like queens without a diamond to have a diamond roll off on the turn. So I think we're just going to shove. Pretty short stack now in terms of our stack pot ratio. So I think we're just going to go all in here with the aces. All right, mate. We are going to check back the 8. I'm very surprised that they folded for such a big sizing on the diamond flop there in a 4-bet pot. But as I said, I don't really want to risk another diamond rolling off and killing action against like queen of clubs, queen of hearts or something. Just calling here and expecting to have the best hand almost always with a jack-8. Seems a little thin in a regular game. I think betting a 6 there would be very, very thin. But as I said, with the history that Jon and I have, I think it's entirely possible that he thinks I can call with ace high. And I probably can. I probably would be calling ace high there. So I don't hate it at all. King 6 off is a bit of a weak hand to defend, even against what is going to be a wide 3-betting range on the button. It's just not particularly playable hand, and neither is this one. So if you want to know what Jon has to say for himself after that 2-4 of hearts 4-bet, if you're watching part 3 of this series, from my perspective, of course there is a part 3 from Jon's perspective where he's going to run you through all the hands that he's playing from his point of view. So be sure, if you're checking this out, be sure to check that one out as well. I don't expect this opponent to check back too many ace-x. I think trying to go for 2 streets of value here with the queen is probably a little bit thin. So we'll go for a check call. I think we will bluff here against Jon with the 10-7. I don't expect to fold too many ace-highs, but he's going to have some checkbacks that give up. I think once we get called, we want to shut down. My adjustment to Jon would be just to bluff a lot less than he expects me to, because I think he expects me to be really aggressive. So we should probably just weight ourselves more towards value bets, since he'll likely be calling us pretty wide. We run into the queen 10 here, but I think going for a street of value is okay. Or check calling turn, rather. Jacks, again, really profitable 3-bet, and if we get 4-bet, we'll just go all in against Jon for sure. We can certainly consider a defend with a 10-6 of clubs. It's a little bit wide, but Jon's going to be wide as well. Let's peel one off, and we're going to shove our jacks against the 4-bet. We're a little bit deeper, 150 big blinds, close to effective, but I still think it's the only way to play the hand. Our hand doesn't really want to see too many flops, and obviously in a 3-handed situation, given the aggression, it's going to be a pretty profitable shove. I'm just considering a call here, and I think we're going to roll with one. There's a lot of turns that we can semi-bluff. This is definitely one of them. We do have a blocker to the straight, and I've just said that we want to bluff a little bit less than we ordinarily would, but once we float 10-6 of clubs, I think we are obliged to bluff. And we're just going to pot and shove river. I think on this texture, Jon would really be looking for a lot of value against my range. He'd want to protect a lot of his hands. I don't anticipate getting check shoved on here too often, given that he just really doesn't want to risk a 6, a 9, a spade, a 4, river. If he has something like a queen or pocket kings or pocket aces. So I'm okay with potting the turn there, and I think we're getting a lot of folds. I think Jon's range in general is going to be pretty weak in that spot once he doesn't bet turn. And if he does manage to find a call with something like 8x with a backdoor, or like 8-6 with a backdoor straight draw or something, then we can definitely get some folds on the river with our shove. So I think potting turn, jamming river there, once we float, seems the best play. I'm pretty excited that we've got to play 10 minutes of heads up here, because for those of you who know my history, I'm typically a heads up player, so this has been fun. We're not going to 3-bet the Queen 8 suited, are we? No. I just think we want to depolarize our range here, so we just 3-bet wider for value, and I don't think that we want to go as wide as Queen 8 suited. So we want to 3-bet hands closer to the top of the pile. Things like King Queens and Queen Jacks and Ace Jacks, because Jon's going to be defending so wide on the button that those are certainly going to become value raises versus him. But I think Queen 8 suited is just going a little bit far. Defending the 8-3 suited on the right to the min open. And we might even find a check raise. I wish this was a spade. If we had 8-3 of hearts here, I'm a much bigger fan of a check raise, but I still think Jon's going to be betting an ace 2-4 board pretty wide. We do have a gut shot, so we'll just put some pressure on him. Really hard for him to do anything if he's c-betting like 8-9 of hearts here. Anticipate folds, Jack 10, anticipate folds, Queen highs, etc. Anticipate folds. We do, however, get 3-bets, so we're just going to fold. Our bet there is really just designed to take advantage of his wide c-betting range and hope to get a pretty cheap bluff and fold out the rubbish, if you will, in his hand. But once we get 3-bet, I'm not gonna mess with it. Defend King 9 off on the button seems pretty standard, very playable hand. Not at this point, and 4-2 off. We can't do anything with that. Not really sure what to make of KT's 6-4-4 so far. I mean, we did see a cold 4-bet and then a bet fold on the club board. I'm not sure I would bet fold too many hands for the sizing that they chose on that board, but certainly seems to be fairly aggressive, like I say, with the cold 4-bet. And what I assume, of course, was a bluff on the diamond board. It was, sorry, in the cold 4-bet part. I mean, I assume they're bluffing there if they're folding off with zero equity. If you cold 4-bet something like Ace King there, and then you c-bet with a diamond, obviously it just becomes a call. So I don't know. They must have just had a pure bluff, I would guess. So perhaps quite an aggressive player. But jury's still out. Small sample seen. More information required. We are going to defend 6-2 of clubs. We're going to flop nowhere near where we need to be. When Jon checks back, I think a 10 would probably try and value bet. So when he checks back, I assume his range is mostly ace highs. Since he probably c-bets a lot of his air pretty wide on this board. Even something like 7-8 of hearts would have a backdoor, or something like King 3 of hearts or something like that would probably c-bet. I think we can go for value now. I almost certainly think he's going to call ace high on the turn. The question is he going to call ace high on the river? It's an interesting river because it does bring the backdoor flush in. I think a lot of its backdoor flushes actually want to or will bet the flop unless they're ace high. I'm not convinced we can get a value bet here, but it'll be pretty interesting if he bets. I'm struggling to find too much air in his range. Hands that would check bet flop, call turn, and not have showdown value at this point. I think he bets his spades. I don't think he turns ace high into a bluff here because he anticipates my range on the turn to still be fairly wide. He'll just have showdown value and take it with the ace high, I would guess. So we're just going to fold the 6. And that's just a case, like I say, I don't think he's going to have a lot of air that takes that line. A lot of hands that need to bluff. So we're just going to find a fold. Jack 10 of diamonds, beautiful looking hand. We can go either way with this. Obviously a call is going to be profitable no matter what. We can consider a 3-bet. But I think given that Jon is 4-betting a reasonable amount against us, he's already 4-bet folded when we jam the jacks. He 4-bet 6-4. I don't think we really want to 3-bet this hand and get 4-bet. Puts us in a bit of unfavorable spot out of position. So I think calling and taking a flop is going to be perfectly reasonable. Little bit disappointed we don't have backdoor diamonds here. I'm just going to fold. It's a board Jon, sorry, George, who that is. It's a board Jon is going to c-bet almost all the time. King 8-2 rainbow, but I think we want a little bit more backdoor equity to continue. We will c-bet here. We got 2 overs, potential backdoor straight draw in the mix. And we get a fold. As ever, if you've been following along for this series or any other series of mine here on PokerVIP, if you have any comments or questions or criticisms, whatever, be sure to put them in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you have any questions about any hands where you're not sure why I did something or you want to, question anything, feel free to do so and we can certainly have a discussion about it. Jon's raised here. We've had a defend. He's not bet. I think we are going to bet. A little bit odd once again for not c-bet the King 6-3 here. I think, again, that's a pretty reasonable board to bet with a decent amount of his range. I'm surprised he goes for a check fold on that texture. He overbets a turn here. We're just folding the ace-3. Jon checks back the flop. So this is a really interesting situation. Because obviously he's going to have a lot of ace-x. But I don't think he has much 6x. I mean, this is pretty spew. I wouldn't recommend this against anyone, but I think he's probably calling ace-x on the turn, and then if we jam the river, he could potentially fold. I mean, it's pretty silly to bluff $1.50 into a 40-cent pot when our opponent's range is uncapped. Like, he can definitely have a 6. So I wouldn't recommend doing this, actually. This is just, this is not going to make you money long term. But against my man, Jon, whilst we're making a video, I kind of wanted to pull off maybe a big one if he'd have called turn, we jam river, and he folds an ace or something. I'm always looking to show him up, but it's definitely not going to be a profitable play. King 6 again is a little bit silly to defend against a 3-bet. We're just going to fold. I don't believe we've mixed in any 4-bet bluffs against him yet. That's going to be something we're probably going to be looking to do at some point. We are going to raise here with our gut shot. I think it's better than a call out of position. Just again, applying maximum pressure to Jon. Whilst we have some equity. And 10 high. If we can get him to fold at all when we have 10 high, that's going to be a good outcome for us. I'd rather play like a weak draw like that, aggressively out of position, rather than passively. Just because we're never going to be good at showdown. And he still has hands he's going to bet fold. This is close. It's a pretty crummy hand, actually. We're just going to go with the folding with the 8-9. Against any reasonable opponent, I'm not saying Jon's an unreasonable opponent, but against a regular opponent where we don't have this dynamic, where we're both making a video, 8-9 off, just clearly going to be a fold in that spot, but we can consider widening our ranges in all spots against Jon. And we're going to go for the 4-bet here. We will make it to 20 and call off a shove. I definitely think he's capable of some lighter 5-bet jams. Our hand's pretty strong. I think we would consider this a cooler heads up for 100 big blinds against Jon, so we'll just 4-bet call off. And if he has it, he has it. He might be considering a light shove. Go on, Jon. I think we want him all in here. I would hope. Anything in the chat? Nothing. He's staying silent. The tension builds. He flats out of position, which I don't think is too unreasonable. Time bank flats out of position. Now again, I think Jon can certainly be trapping some big hands here, given he expects me to be pretty aggressive pre and post. So we're going to check back flop. Now that's a really good card for my range because I can certainly have ace-king when I 4-bet and check behind. He probably expects my heir to bet the flop as I said, he expects me to be fairly aggressive. So when I check back, I do represent ace-king pretty well. So I'd be surprised if he bets the turn. Do you know? Because my hand just looks like ace-king that would either bet itself or never fold. The question, of course, is do we get better hands here to fold? So can we turn our ace-queen into a bluff to get something better to fold? Now, whilst I do think he can have 9s, 10s, and jacks, I would be surprised if he flatted those hands pre. I think he can trap with like aces and kings pre, which is unlikely now given our blockers in the board. But I think 9s, 10s, and jacks don't really want to see a flop. I think he would shove them all in pre-flop. So I don't think we get a better hand to fold. He won't have too many 8s in his range. Obviously, he probably won't fold that anyway and wouldn't fold a 7. We're never going to get him to fold if he has a hand like king, queen, or king, jack suited. So I think we're okay just taking a check back, and we can potentially show down. He goes for a half-pot river bet, which... I mean, we have multiple problems in this hand in that I think we're pretty much top of our range in this spot. Given all of our better hands have bet by this point, we'd bet our kings on the turn, if not on the flop. So we're at the top of our range. I think this is the strongest hand we get to the river with. The only downside is our hand looks a lot like what it is. It looks a lot like ace-high. And I don't know how often Jon is going to try and get me to fold ace-high. So I'm just considering whether we can make an exploitable fold where, obviously, if we're at the top of our range, we have to call. Because if we don't call the very top of our range, we're going to be folding everything, and that can be exploited. The question is, if Jon never bluffs in this spot because he doesn't expect me to fold my ace-highs, then we can exploit him by folding and just not paying him off in a spot where he's never bluffing. I think I'm going to come down on the side of, like, he can potentially bluff here. So I'm probably going to call off. Ace-queen's a good hand for us to bluff catch because we block king-queen as well, which might be one of the hands he goes for value with. But I think we're just going to find a call. I'm not happy with it, though. Show us what you got. Jack 9 of clubs. Okay, so we definitely can't fold the top of our range because he's certainly turning some stuff into a bluff, it would seem. I hope he doesn't think that was a slow roll. But obviously, I just wanted to verbalize my thought process for myself and for you guys so that you know exactly what's going on in our thought pattern during that hand and how we come to call ace-high at the river, which I think we just have to. Be interesting to see. I'm very, very, very keen to watch that hand from Jon's perspective on his part of this series and see what he was thinking at all points. I mean, I think he played okay. I think he played fine. Flattening the 4-bet pre, I think we were only 100 big blinds deep. I mean, it's a little bit thin at a position there. It's a little bit speculative, but I don't hate it. I flatted a 4-bet earlier in this stream out of position with ace-10 offsuit, which I think is a little bit of a better defend because it can make some stronger top pairs. Jack-9 obviously is going to make fewer top pairs. And also my ace-10 off plays a little bit better against a 4-bet bluffing range, which some people include sort of suited aces and stuff in that range, or off-suited, weak off-suited aces. So, I don't know, Jack-9 clubs is going to have a little bit less playability post-flop, given when we have a shallower stacked pot ratio, when there's more money in the middle and less behind in our stacks, we really want to be playing for top pair value rather than sort of flopping speculative draws. And I think Jack-9 is going to flop more speculative draws than it is decent top pairs. So I think we want to be a little bit deeper and have a bigger stack pot ratio with those hands. So I'm not fully behind Jon's call there with of the 4-bet with the Jack-9 of clubs, but I understand versus me taking a flop and taking it into the streets. And I don't think he can do anything else on flop and turn. I don't think he should lead the flop. I don't think, as I said, I don't think he should lead the turn just because my hand looks a lot like ace-king. I think if I'm him, I'm probably going for a bigger sizing at the river. With both my value bets and my bluffs. Just because if I have a bluff catcher in that spot, I'm probably not folding. And so his kings would probably want to go for max value. His 7x would want to go for max value. And it also applies a little bit more pressure to my range, which is fairly weak by that point, given I've checked 2 streets. But like I say, if I do end up with a bluff catcher, he's probably getting paid off. But it really puts me in a tough spot with hands such as the one I had. Anyway, we have 2 interesting hands. That was a fairly interesting hand, very interesting hand indeed. But we got a couple new ones here. The 9-9 definitely going to be a raise, and the King-King definitely going to be a 3-bet. We get snap called by Atmansick directly to my left. Again, I know nothing about this player. Not an ideal board. I do think I want to value bet against him though. And again, not an ideal turn, but I'm just considering our options here. I think with the 9s, even this deep, I'm going to 4-bet get it in against Jon. Just because his 3-betting range here is going to be so wide, we definitely want the 4-bet. And once he shoves, we just can't really fold a hand this strong against him. And we just run into it. But like I said, it might be verging on the thin side. I might be overestimating the aggression between us, but I can't imagine doing anything but 4-betting this hand. And once we 4-bet, he's certainly capable of some lighter 5-bets, so we can't fold the 9s, even that deep. It's unfortunate he just has it, but I'm 95% that's a cooler, and Jon will consider it a cooler as well. Atmansick on this table limps in. I'm going to assume he's recreational, and whilst the 9 isn't great, I'm just going to shovel in and try and get value from a queen here. He does end up folding turn. I don't think we really want to call. There's so many bad rivers, a 10, a jack, a queen. And some action killers like an ace, maybe if he has a queen, jack, queen 10 type hand. So I think just jamming turn is going to be best for us. Yeah, again, I'm interested to see that from Jon's perspective, just to see if he considers that a cooler as well. I mean, I think I do. Given how aggressive we've been against each other, I think I consider that a cooler. Even multi-way here, we're going to c-bet with our queen jack. It's a really good hand for us to c-bet. Very, very dry board, king 4-3 rainbow. And we also block hands like king queen and king jack, making it less likely our opponent has those. The ace is a pretty interesting turn. We can probably barrel it and apply pressure. I think Atmansick's range is still fairly wide. It's a little bit of a risky bluff, but I think Atmansick's range is wide enough that we can get it through. And I think DZ Joker as well is really going to be in an unhappy place with pocket 7s, pocket 8s, those underpairs, as well as his kings by the river, which we would probably have to find a shove on. But a lot of his kings, like I say, given our blocker to king, queen, and king, jack, a lot of his kings are going to be the weaker kings, like king 9 suited and king 10 suited, which probably can't face 3 streets. Defending the queen 10 off in position against Jon seems fine. Flop a queen, definitely going to start with a call. If he checks, we're going to start with a bet. Going to bet just a little bit bigger to protect against spades. I think the majority of his spades will see bet flop, but he can still have hands like 5x with a spade, 4x with a spade, etc. Folding here. See daisy. We will keep an eye out in the chat because this is usually about the time that Jon declares we have 3 hands left, or it's his final orbit or something. We're going to stick these videos to about half an hour, 30 minutes. So we're 20 minutes in, 28 minutes in currently. My word, that might be the end of the video coming up. So thanks everybody for tuning into this series. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying making it and playing against Jon. As I said, if you have any questions, comments, let me know. If you don't think that 9s was a cooler, let me know. If you think we were punting a little bit. But I don't know, from what I've seen, given the amount of 3-bets and 4-bets that have been flying in, I feel like he can find a light 5-bet jam against us. And if he 5-bets something like ace-jack, or he goes with the ace-5 suited as his bluff, obviously we're in pretty reasonable shape given the dead money that we've already invested. If we can find a flip with the dead money, then obviously it's going to be a profitable call. I would imagine once we mix in a few bluffs in his range, it's going to be a profitable call. Look how good Jon runs as well. Just stacks this guy over here with the flush versus the straight. He's called last 2 minutes. So we'll just see if we can win a little bit back. I think we're down slightly for the session, I think, because we stacked off, obviously, the 15 euros against Jon on the left-hand side. But we're up a bit on the right, I believe. I don't feel like it's gone too badly. I feel like we've played fine. We've gone to war with Jon. And whilst we are battle scarred, the war rages on. We're going to have part 4 coming up soon. I think we're going to c-bet here. A lot of Jon's aces will be 3-betting. A lot of his strong broadways will probably be 3-betting. So it's not an unreasonable board for us to bet, even though we don't have much or, if any, equity. I guess we'll be done in the next big blind. So we will take off auto post. Let's 3-bet as we wind down. Let's 3-bet. Let's try and go out with a bang, shall we? We're a little bit deeper here. I don't mind a 3-bet with 5-6 of clubs. It might be time. It might be time for us to take a flop. Now, I did say that we don't want a small stack pot ratio with drawing hands like this, but Jon and I are a little bit deeper here. It is the end of the video. I mean, typically, I don't think this is going to be a profitable call out of position, but given we're winding down the video, let's play some games. Let's play games. And it's a pretty good flop, dare I say. We have a pair. We have a 4 of clubs. We're definitely not folding. I don't think we should raise because it's a pretty dry board. It's not going to get any folds out of better hands. We have some showdown value. Let's call. And hope the turn is favorable. That is not a favorable turn. I think this is going to be the end for us in this hand. We'll start with a check. Now, if Jon does c-bet the flop here with something like ace-3 of hearts, I don't anticipate too many barrels here. He can still have hands like 9-10. I don't think he value bets a jack on the turn too often. I think he would check back and go for value on the river or go for a bluff catch on the river. So he's really representing things like queen jack, which I think doesn't 4-bet. I'm going to sit out here. I don't think he 4-bets queen jack. So he's representing jacks, queens, 6 combos, and then kings and aces. Maybe an ace queen, king queen bets flop. The problem with calling the turn is I think he's almost always volleying it in on the river, which is a technical term. So if we call turn, I think his bluffing frequency doesn't really change by the river. So we're in a really tricky spot. I think we're probably too far down in our range to call here. We don't turn any additional equity. We're just going to fold. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he rocks up with a barrel like the king 10, the 9-10, the 10-8 suited even. Entirely possible. But again, in order to know that, you're going to have to check out Jon's part 3 of this series. Hey, that was a fun one. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you soon for part 4.